Hey, welcome to the channel. This is MacCam89, and today's Pass or Play video game of the week is going to be this game here. It is for the original PlayStation, and this is Road Rash 3D. Released in 1998 exclusively for the Sony PlayStation and developed and published by Electronic Arts. This arcade-style racing game with motorcycles, and it just features motorcycles, but you can get different variations of motorcycles. And it has a good variety, I think, for the type of game. And if you're not familiar with the Road Rash series, it also introduced combat mechanics. Now, it's not something, totally in depth. You're not going to be doing combos and fatalities and things like that, but you can punch and kick and cause other bikers to fall off their motorcycles and things like that, and it definitely provides a few laughs. This series originally came out on the Sega Genesis. I love the Sega Genesis versions. I owned all three as a kid on the Sega Genesis, and had a lot of fun, especially two-player mode. Once Road Rash 2 came out, it introduced a two-player mode at the same time, with the first Road Rash only allowed you to alternate. So you could do two players, but you couldn't race at the same time. So Road Rash 2 introduces that properly. And that's actually going to be something that we're going to talk about with this version. Now, this is the second version to show on the Sony PlayStation. And some of the positives about this game. Now, I had just started playing this when VGM sent it to me. Shout out to them, because the original disc that they sent me did not work. It would play for a little bit and get a CD read error. I contacted them and they sent out a new copy, and it works flawlessly, so no issues there. And getting back into the game, I would say it's been a long time that I picked up a game, especially for the Sony PlayStation, and have been having as much fun as I have been with this game, just messing around with it. It's just it is a lot of fun. A lot of the positives that I would say about this game is I think it has great graphics that holds up for its time. It sounds good. The gameplay is pretty smooth, even though for some reason there are some reviewers that were out there saying otherwise, that it didn't. And they talk about glitching, and there's some graphical glitches, but nothing that are game breaking or anything like that. Overall, the controls of this game are fantastic. There are a lot of even arcade style racing games that I can't get into them, because the controls are just too sensitive, too spotty. They're just not good. This game feels good. There's never a time where I feel like I made a mistake because of the controls. It's always because I made the mistake. I misjudged it. I didn't turn good enough. Anytime I crash, again, it was always my fault. It wasn't because of the game itself. Racetrack designs are really good in this game. As you progress in the campaign and go into more levels, you'll have interlocking races where one track will connect to another one. So it'll just give you a longer variety of those maps. But I think the locations are varied good enough. Now, getting into some of the cons of this game, because it's definitely not perfect, but it definitely was a step in the right direction. It lacks a two-player mode, and I feel like for Road Rash, that's kind of a must. You should have a two-player mode. This does not have a two-player mode at all. You can't alternate. You can't do it at the same time. The other thing that I would say is the cutscenes are pretty cringy. Even kind of for that time period, the 90s. But some of them, especially today, they didn't age too well. Some of them are just really weird. Some of them are funny and quirky. But today's standards, they're a little cringy. it lacks customization features. So, for instance, I said that there were a good variety of motorcycles. However, you can't do anything with them. So you can't get any upgrades. You can't paint the motorcycle and customize it to your liking. The only thing that you can do is you can trade in your bike to purchase a faster bike, a bike that's a little bit more stable. And as you progress in the campaign, you have to do that. You can't stick with the same bike throughout the entire time. So you do have to get faster bikes. The cops in the game are not aggressive. In fact, the only time that the cops ever got me is if I fell, crashed, and they just happen to be behind me. 95%, I would say even more, 99% of the time when you hear a cop, you just hear the siren, and that's it. They're not fast enough to keep up with you. They don't hit you. They don't really seem to do much of anything. So major disappointment, because I felt that in other versions previous that the cops were more aggressive. They actually did something and things of that nature. The biggest drawback, and I think the thing that really hit this game hard when the reviews came out, other than the lack of a two-player mode, especially during that time period, the combat is not as good as in previous entries. It does take time to get used to it. There's some sort of lag when doing the combat, trying to, especially when you're punching, it's not as bad, but when you are using any sort of weapon, especially the chain, there is such a delay that it's really hard to get hits on your opponent. So, and you gotta remember what really made Road Rash stand out from other motorcycle games. It was the combat. That was a staple in the originals. It was a lot of fun, and although when you eventually time it right and you can land a hit and especially get somebody off their bike, it's very rewarding because of how much harder it is. But at the same time, that's not what a Road Rash game should be. At the time, it did get mixed reviews. So there were a lot of review outlets like GameSpot and Game Informer that gave it 7s. IGN would be one of the ones that would give it a 5 at the time. Overall, I think this is a really fun game. Even with those negatives that I listed out, it's still a fun game. I would say that this is definitely a play rating. This is a game that you should have in your collection. Shouldn't be too expensive to get. It's not a game that's talked about a lot. It's not even a game that I even knew existed, to be honest. I just happened to get it, and that's what's the beauty of some of these mystery boxes, is you get games that you wouldn't have thought about otherwise. And I've just been having a lot of fun with it. And what's the whole point of playing games? Is to have fun. And this is a game that I've just been putting on the past couple nights, just playing a couple of rounds of it, and then just having a great time with it. And that is Road Rash 3D for the Sony PlayStation. Gets a play rating from me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for those that have subscribed. And as always, God bless.